have a daily bathing group in southern Iraq in the 200s. And the only thing, I got to get it right because sometimes it's in my book, James, but Mani actually grew out of this in the 200s. He's a member of what we call an El-Kazaite group. El-Kazai means hidden power. It's an Aramaic word. It comes from Palestine somewhere in the 1st century and 2nd century. These groups spread again into northern Iraq. Many of them claim to be followers of John the Baptist. The Mandaeans in southern Iraq follow John the Baptist to this day. And Mani came from one of these families, and the only thing he changed was the food regulations and the way of purification. For Mani, you didn't have to bathe all of the time. You could clean yourself with sand and things of that kind. And those sort of rituals, Mani saw himself as a seal of the prophets. He spoke about a continuum of prophets down to him. Well, this is what Muhammad does in the Qumran. What happened is that Muhammad, in the 5th and 6th centuries, encountered these Manichaean groups in southern Iraq. Muhammad encountered these Manichaean groups in southern Iraq, and out of that came his idea of the seal of the prophets, with slight variations from what Mani had been telling earlier. But Manichaeism runs at that time all the way into Persia, followed the whole Silk Road into China. It was a thriving movement for 4 or 5 centuries before Islam crushed it.
All based around water and purity?
Well, started with this El-Kazite movement. The El-Kazites in the early Christian texts follow this leader called the Righteous One or the Pure One. Probably is also related to the Qatar movement in southern France, because they call themselves the perfect and the pure ones. All these movements we don't have documented that well, but they're all involved in one way or spin-offs or variations on the same theme, being purity and practicing purity in a certain way. And of course, at Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have the mother lode of the purity-conscious people. In the New Testament, to be fair, we have the mother lode of the anti-purity conscious people. Because the whole thing of the presentation, and I call it a presentation of Jesus, is to show him as dispensing with the purity laws, saying you are not known by the food that goes into your mouth, that just goes out the body into the toilet bowl. You're known by what comes out of the mouth. Very clever rhetorical expositions and flourishes, repartees of that kind. But basically those were taken as dispensing with the purity regulations. You know, Jesus is pictured as sitting in the New Testament. And I say pictured because I don't credit these historical pictures of a Jewish messianic leader. He's pictured as sitting with tax collectors who would have been considered totally unclean, people of various physical disabilities, people with running blood who can't control their periods, things that would have horrified Jews. You know, Jews have a horror of people in their periods anyway and set them aside and won't have sexual intercourse with them in those times. Jesus, all the lame, the lepers, everything that is a banned person in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the Gospels, is pictures of someone Jesus received, in particular prostitutes. Prostitutes is a total bugaboo at Qumran, and they mean by prostitutes fornicators. And they would have included by fornicators, not the Maccabean family, which we were discussing at another point, but the Herodian family, because for the people at Qumran here and for John the Baptist, the Herodian family were little more than fornicators and prostitutes because of their marital habits and their odd behavior of marrying their close relatives and all marrying their nieces, and their divorce and polygamy practices.
Right.
You have a complete thought and someone comes in who, you know, is throwing their brain waves, and you're answering their brain waves, and your thought is evaporated.
Okay, good to go here.
Okay, ready? So what you see here is an actual shot of Cave 4 from across the Wadi, this being the promontory where the settlement ruins were dug first by DeVoe and now by a lot of us others. Down there we'll go momentarily to the graveyard. But here is a great shot of Cave 4, and we call these marls. These are a mixture of mud and limestone. They're not pure rock, they're marls. And that cave there with the entrance you see, one from the top and one from the side, is Cave 4. The second part of it is on the other side of it. It has an equally open chamber Originally, the two seem to have been connected, but it seems the area in between has fallen through. I can't promise that that was the way it was constructed in the original embodiment, but that's the theory. Over there to the right is another cave. All these are numbered in the order in which manuscripts were found. Cave 5, some small fragments of things were found in that little sort of hump of a marl there. The reason we're digging in the marls, and you see our team standing on top of the marls there, throwing their ladders, throwing their ropes, their climbing equipment, the radar ground scan boxes over the side, is because the theory of this expedition is that since Cave 4 was an artificially hollowed out cave within the marl, it is quite possible that some of the other marls might have been artificially hollowed out and just covered up for one reason or another. Erosion, mudslides, rain, debris, or they were purposely covered up. So 12 years ago, when we did the first ground scan of this plateau, California State University, Long Beach, under my direction, brought the equipment out from the Geophysical Survey System company of New Hampshire, the same company that's helping us sponsor to some extent our activities at the present time. In this expedition, using their upgraded gear, we found signatures of empty areas in several of those marls. We also found some signatures of empty areas over here. And in the last 2 years, under previous expeditions, we were able to dig a few out, and we did find pottery, mats, signs of habitation, nothing spectacular like manuscripts. So the radar has been working, and now we're trying to zero in to find this. According to our readers 14 years ago, we saw a huge empty area on one of the 3 adjourning fingers next to Cave 4. We're trying to identify exactly which that finger is. And we're trying to see if there's another cave like that. We're not pie-eyed optimists, we're not dreamers. We know the chances of finding anything are about 1%, if that, but we think no stone should be left unturned. If there is another cave like Cave 4, it would be like the motherlode of all motherlodes for Dead Sea Scroll documents. So it certainly is worth a little extra effort of the kind we are putting in here. And it's an interesting activity. A final comment. You see the bird just flew into that cave there, Cave 4. You see the entrance has been hit from the top, this from the side. I don't know what was there when Father DeVoe did his survey in 1952. But Father DeVoe, who was excavating this area here, missed that cave. Now, it is almost